We never know when disaster might strike. One minute you're cozy in your living room, the next you're facing a power outage, natural disaster, or worse. Out in the wild, I always say, be prepared to survive. That's why today, we're diving headfirst into a survival guide for the unexpected. 12 must-have items to get you through any SHTF scenario, whether it's a hurricane, a blizzard, or the zombie apocalypse. We're talking essential gear to keep you safe, sheltered, and most importantly, alive. Fire. It can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Out in the wilderness, a controlled fire means warmth, cooked food, and safety. But in an emergency situation at home, a fire can be catastrophic. That's why a multi-purpose fire extinguisher is non-negotiable. Not all fires are created equal, so you need an extinguisher that can handle anything. Electrical fires, grease fires, you name it. Remember, seconds count when you're battling flames. A fire extinguisher gives you the power to put out small fires before they become infernos. Trust me, having one close at hand and knowing how to use it could be the difference between escaping with minor damage and losing everything. Fire extinguishers are your first line of defense against a blaze, but let's face it, sometimes things can get out of hand. That's where fire blankets come in, your trusty sidekick in the battle against the inferno. Think of them as your personal fire shield, ready to protect you from the worst. Now, fire blankets might look unassuming, but don't let their simple appearance fool you. They're made from fire-resistant materials designed to withstand intense heat and suffocate flames. Imagine this: you're cooking up a storm in the kitchen, and suddenly the oil in your pan catches fire. Panic sets in, but you remember your trusty fire blanket. You grab the blanket by its handy-dandy straps, keeping your hands safely behind them, and gently drape it over the entire fire. The flames, starved of oxygen, quickly die down, and disaster is averted. No need to sacrifice your entire kitchen to the fire gods. We've talked about tackling fires head-on, but sometimes the best course of action is a tactical retreat, and that's where our next essential item comes in: the retractable fire escape ladder. Think of it as your secret weapon for a daring escape when things get too hot to handle. Now, if you live in a multi-story building, you know that fires can trap you in a flash. Stairwells might be blocked, and elevators? Well, let's just say they're not an option when the building's on fire. That's when a fire escape ladder becomes your lifeline. These ingenious contraptions are compact and easy to store, but don't let their size fool you. When deployed, they transform into sturdy ladders that can support your weight and get you out of harm's way. It's like having your own personal escape route ready to deploy at a moment's notice. Out in the wild, I rely on my wits and a few essential pieces of gear to survive. And one item that's always in my pack is a trusty tarp. This unassuming sheet of plastic might not look like much, but believe me, it's a true survival multi-tool. From shelter to water collection, a tarp can handle it all, and in an SHTF scenario, it can be your best friend. Imagine this: you're forced to evacuate your home due to a natural disaster. You find yourself seeking shelter from the elements, and that's where your trusty tarp comes in. With a bit of ingenuity and some rope or paracord, you can transform that simple sheet into a makeshift shelter. String it up between two trees, drape it over a fallen log, or create a lean-to against a rock face. The possibilities are endless. And just like that, you've got yourself a basic shelter to protect you from the rain, wind, or even scorching sun. In the wild, rope is more than just a length of fibers. It's a lifeline, a tool, a symbol of ingenuity. From building shelters to securing gear, rope is an essential part of my survival kit. And in an SHTF scenario, it can be just as crucial in an urban environment as it is in the wilderness. Think of rope as the duct tape of the survival world. It can fix, secure, or create just about anything. Need to build a makeshift shelter? Rope it is. Want to hoist supplies up to a higher level? Rope to the rescue. But here's the thing about rope. It's not just about having it. It's about knowing how to use it effectively. And that means learning a few basic knots. A few simple knots like the bowline, clove hitch, and square knot can go a long way in a pinch. In the vast wilderness, darkness can be a formidable foe, concealing dangers and testing your resolve. But with a reliable light source, you can navigate through the night, find your way back to safety, and signal for help. And in an SHTF situation, a good light can be just as crucial in your own home as it is out in the wild. When the power grid goes down, your trusty flashlight or headlamp becomes your lifeline. It allows you to navigate through your darkened home, locate essential supplies, and avoid tripping over unexpected obstacles. Trust me, stumbling around in the dark is not only disorienting but also downright dangerous. But a good light source is more than just a way to see in the dark. It's a beacon of hope, a symbol of resilience. It can help you maintain a sense of normalcy and control in the face of chaos. Out in the wild, I've braved frigid temperatures and learned the hard way that staying warm is essential for survival. Hypothermia is a silent killer, and it can strike even in relatively mild conditions. And in an SHTF situation, when the power goes out and temperatures plummet, having a reliable heat source can be a matter of life and death. One option is to have a supply of warm clothing and blankets readily available. Layers are key here, as they trap heat more effectively. Think thermal underwear, fleece jackets, wool socks, and hats. The works. Another option is to invest in a portable indoor safe heater. There are various types available, including electric, propane, and kerosene heaters. Out in the wilderness, my tools are an extension of my hands, allowing me to build, repair, and overcome obstacles. And in an SHTF scenario, having the right tools on hand can make all the difference in your ability to adapt, improvise, and overcome challenges. Now, I'm not talking about building a workshop in your basement, though that's not a bad idea. But having a basic set of essential tools can prove invaluable in an emergency. Think of it as your personal toolkit for survival, ready to tackle any task that comes your way. So, what tools should you include in your SHTF arsenal? Well, let's start with the basics. A sturdy hammer, a versatile screwdriver set, a pair of pliers, an adjustable wrench, a utility knife, a tape measure, and a level. These trusty companions can handle a wide range of repairs, from fixing a leaky faucet to securing loose boards. In the vast and unforgiving wilderness, knowledge is power, and staying informed can mean the difference between life and death. And in an SHTF scenario, when communication networks are down and information is scarce, a reliable radio can be your lifeline to the outside world. Think of it as your connection to civilization, providing vital updates on weather conditions, evacuation orders, and emergency broadcasts. It's a source of hope, a reminder that you're not alone in the midst of chaos. Now, I'm not talking about your fancy smartphone with its endless streaming services. Those will be about as useful as a chocolate fire guard when the grid goes down. I'm talking about a good old-fashioned battery-powered or hand-crank radio, the kind that can receive AM, FM, and, most importantly, NOAA weather radio broadcasts. Out in the wilderness, injuries are par for the course. Whether it's a minor cut, a sprained ankle, or something more serious, I've learned to be prepared for anything. And in an SHTF scenario, when access to medical care may be limited or non-existent, having a well-stocked first aid kit and essential medical supplies is crucial. Think of it as your personal mini-hospital, ready to handle a wide range of medical emergencies. Now, I'm not saying you need to be a doctor or a nurse, but having some basic first aid knowledge and the right supplies on hand can make all the difference in an emergency. Your first aid kit should include the essentials for treating minor cuts, burns, scrapes, sprains, and strains. Out in the wild, I've faced my fair share of hunger pangs. I've learned that having a reliable source of sustenance is crucial for maintaining energy levels, focus, and morale. And in an SHTF scenario, when grocery stores are closed and supply chains are disrupted, having a stockpile of non-perishable food and water is essential for survival. Think of it as your insurance policy against hunger and dehydration, ensuring that you and your loved ones have the nourishment you need to weather the storm. Now, I'm not suggesting you go full-on doomsday prepper and build a bunker stocked with enough MREs to last a lifetime, but having a reasonable supply of non-perishable food and water on hand is just common sense. Aim for at least a 3-day supply per person, ideally more if you have the space. We've talked about the importance of having a water stockpile, but what happens when that supply runs dry? Well, that's where water filtration and purification come in. Out in the wilderness, I've learned that finding water is often the easy part. Making it safe to drink is the real challenge. And in an SHTF scenario, when water sources may be contaminated, knowing how to purify water can be the difference between staying hydrated and getting seriously ill. Now, you don't need to be a chemist or a survival expert to master the art of water purification. There are several effective and relatively simple methods you can use to make questionable water safe to drink. One option is to boil the water vigorously for at least 1 minute. So there you have it. Those are my 12 essential items to get you through any SHTF situation. Remember, being prepared isn't about living in fear. It's about taking control and ensuring you're ready for whatever life throws your way. By having these items on hand and knowing how to use them, you're not just surviving, you're thriving in the face of adversity. Don't wait for disaster to strike before you act. Start building your emergency kit today. Remember, out in the wild or in the concrete jungle, luck favors the prepared.